My mom told me I was the best thing that ever happened to her, so I asked her why she told Aunt Mary the opposite. I was looking for my mom at Thanksgiving dinner when I heard her voice coming from my grandma's bedroom down the hall, and I was about to walk in when I heard my name and froze right outside the door. I never wanted her, my mom said, and I could hear the exhaustion in her voice like she'd been holding this in for years. She was an accident, Mary, and honestly, she ruined my entire life. I had to give up everything. Aunt Mary said something I couldn't hear, and then my mom laughed this bitter little laugh and said, her sister was planned, that's different. When I look at her, I see the daughter I chose, and when I look at the other one, I just see everything I lost. I waited for Aunt Mary to defend me or tell her she was being horrible, but instead she just said, I know, Kelly, I know, like they'd had this conversation 100 times before. I stood there in that hallway feeling like someone had just reached into my chest and ripped something out, and then I heard footsteps coming toward the door, so I turned and walked back to the living room like nothing had happened, even though everything had just changed. I stood in the corner of my grandma's living room trying to breathe normally, while my brain kept replaying those words over and over, and suddenly 16 years of memories started rearranging themselves into something that finally made sense. The wall of family photos had always bothered me, but I'd told myself it was nothing, except now I counted 8 pictures of my sister and exactly one of me. A group shot from 3 Christmases ago where I was barely in frame. My mom walked back into the room and I watched her go straight to my sister, telling her she looked beautiful in her new dress, the one mom had taken her shopping for last week while I stayed home because there wasn't room in the car, even though we have a whole back seat. She said they had to save room for their shopping bags. I thought about my 13th birthday, when I got dinner at a restaurant I didn't even pick with just our immediate family, because mom said I didn't have enough friends to justify a party. I tried to catch my mom's eye from across the room, and she looked right through me like I was a piece of furniture, then immediately turned to ask my sister about her grades with this warm, interested voice she had never once used with me. My grandma pulled out an old photo album, and I flipped through it while everyone talked, finding picture after picture where I was positioned at the very edge or halfway cut off, one where you could literally see someone's arm around my sister while my face was cropped out entirely, and I realized someone had done that on purpose. I thought about every time I'd tried to talk to her about my day, and she'd found an excuse to leave the room. Every time I'd convinced myself I was imagining the difference because the alternative was too painful to accept. My sister started telling everyone about her volleyball tournament, and my mom was beaming at her like she hung the moon, leaning forward and asking follow-up questions. And when I mentioned that I'd gotten an A on my history project last week, my mom just said, "That's nice," without even looking up from her phone. I had spent my whole life trying to earn something that was never available to me, working harder and being better and telling myself that eventually she would love me the same way she loved my sister. But now I knew the truth. She had decided I was a burden before I ever took my first breath, and nothing I ever did was going to change that. My grandma announced that dinner was ready, and everyone started moving toward the dining room, and I followed them with my mom's words still echoing in my head, because I knew that if I was going to say something, it had to be now, in front of everyone, where she couldn't pretend it never happened, and gaslight me into thinking I'd misunderstood. We were all seated around my grandma's dining table, when my mom smiled this big, warm smile and said, "I'm thankful for my beautiful family, and both my amazing daughters, because being a mother is the greatest gift of my entire life." I looked her directly in the eyes and said, "Really, Mom? Because when you were talking to Aunt Mary earlier, you said I was an accident who ruined your life, and that when you look at me, all you see is everything you lost." The table went dead silent, and my mom's face went white, and before she could even open her mouth to deny, my grandma turned to my mom with an expression I'd never seen before and said, "You don't get to treat your own child like a mistake, and then sit at my table pretending to be Mother of the Year, Kelly." My grandma found me on the porch later and told me that my mom had been accepted to a prestigious graduate program right before she found out she was pregnant with me, that she'd blamed me ever since for the life she never got to live, but that was her choice, and it was never my fault.